Hey guys, thank you for joining us for another night of exciting YOMO discussion. This is the Year of Magical Learning podcast. We are on Reflection 212. This is part one of five of one of the top 10 favorite book, The Happiness Hypothesis by Jonathan Haidt.
Yeah, so this is the first book, or the first reflection of a part five series, where it's another one of those top five favorites that we decided to do a five-part reflection for because it just made you think so much. So the book is called The Happiness Hypothesis, like True just mentioned, and it's about happiness. I mean, it's about 10 ideas and how they compound on each other in the book, ultimately lead to the author Jonathan Haidt, who's a psychologist, with his formula of his happiness hypothesis in life. I think it's a brilliant book. It was really, really interesting. Had a great time reading it. I've read it multiple times now. And actually my team, our Club and Light program is reading it this month as their book of the month. So, which by the way, they've been loving it. Like, True, I need to catch you up on some of the, like, I need to like show you some of our like recorded team meetings because we have Gong. It's like, have you ever heard of Gong?
Yeah.
So I bought Gong for our team like 3 months ago or something like that, and I record some of our team meetings. But I think you would absolutely like love seeing like the interactions that go on during our like team meetings when we're doing like our book clubs or our anti-libraries, or I mean our anti-book clubs, or our how'd you find the blueberries every week, our moment of gratitude, going through our values and how they're bringing those to life each week. It's really cool. It's just fun. You can see them growing. They talk about it all the time. They always tell me, literally all of them, just every one-on-one I have or in group interactions, it's constant. This is incredible. I absolutely love my job and I love what we're all doing together in the team. There's so much I need to catch you up on. Actually, we haven't really talked about it in a while, but it's pretty powerful. Actually, it's very much so showing that our hypothesis of the Clubany hypothesis is maybe that should be our book, the Clubany hypothesis, that we make someday. But anyway, I digress. Back to the happiness hypothesis. This is Finding Modern Truth and Ancient Wisdom by Jonathan Haidt. And the first reflection that I wanted to talk about was something called the adversity hypothesis. Do you remember what that was in the book at all?
No.
Okay,
I only know happiness hypothesis.
Yeah, meaningful work and meaningful relationships, is what the happiness hypothesis is, really. Do you remember?
Right.
Like that's the very end of it, is really the happiness hypothesis. This particular idea, one of these ideas that the author went through, is called the adversity hypothesis. And once again, this is all about finding happiness and understanding how humans work and what leads us toward that path or doesn't lead toward that path. So this book actually was an interesting book. Since this is the first part of the five-part reflection, I got to give a little bit of background of how I even found this book. The compound effect in action, right? As always with a lot of these books, my hairstylist, her name's Marta, has been cutting my hair, I don't know, for 12, 15 years or something like that. And this was about 4 or 5 months after Amelia had passed away. And I was in her chair. We were, slowly but surely over the previous few months, I'd been reading a lot, obviously, and I'd been thinking a lot, and my life had changed a lot since, Amelia had passed away. And do you ever go to a hairstylist, or do you go to like a barber or something like that? No. Who cuts your hair?
I cut my hair.
Oh, you cut. Oh, geez. All right. Well, all right. So there's a special bond between a hairstylist and their clients. They're like part psychologists, part psychiatrist, part hairdresser, part friend, part confidant. They know all your secrets about life, and everything. And you talk about, you see somebody every 2 weeks for an hour. You learn a lot about them over 10, 12, 15 years. You know what I mean? So Marta and I, the topics that we had talked about before were always like about travel, or about places that we want to go to, or about places that we'd been, or about what's going on with upcoming work activities, trips, or whatever, stuff like that. It was important, but it wasn't like super important or anything like that. And, her and I always have gotten along pretty well. Well, after Amelia had passed away, I'm going through the rubble of my life, as I like to call it, and I'm starting to find those first few tracks that Amelia had left for me about 4 or 5 months after she had passed away, and, was learning a lot, following what Amelia was teaching me. I was talking to Marta about books that I was reading and stuff like that, just because a lot of topics were on my mind. Marta is a really interesting person. She's like a yoga teacher. She's really into a lot of these more spiritual side of the world. She's an interesting person. She has a lot of interesting thoughts, and she reads a lot as well. We ended up connecting a lot on different books and things like that. And she's actually the one that recommended this book to me. So I think I was actually talking about Sapiens, because I had just finished Sapiens right before this, and we were having a good conversation while she was washing my hair or whatever. And she was like, you know what? I think there's this book that I had to read for this yoga retreat that I really liked. It was called The Happiness Hypothesis. She was like, I feel like you would really like this one. You should check it out. I was like, okay. So as I left the salon that day, I downloaded this book, and, the 2 weeks later, when I came back to my haircut, I'd already finished it. And I was like, my God, Marta, that was amazing. She was like, whoa, like you just finished that book really? Because this has obviously been the life ever since then. But yeah, no, I loved it, obviously. So talk about the compound effect. You start to learn stuff, you start to meet other people and develop, find things like this. And it's another little step on the journey. And how many people we shared this book with at this point in time? Probably, I don't know, 25, 30 now at this point that we've gotten to read this book either with us or through our core values quest, or like what we're doing right now with my team. There's 8 of them. Anyway, I don't know how many other people I've recommended this book to. So it's just one of those things, right? So for me, though, with that out of the way, I guess just the background of the book, it's just interesting how some of these things come into my life. The thing that caught my attention the most, I viscerally remember this feeling as I was listening to this section of this book, and it was about this thing he called the adversity hypothesis. This is the first time I'd really heard about the term post-traumatic growth, right? Do you know what post-traumatic growth is?
I think we talked about it before.
Right. Like the ability for humans to bounce forward, after a traumatic event, right? There's this weird bounce forward potential toward happiness that happens sometimes when you have traumatic events. And the adversity hypothesis is, sometimes you need, like we've talked about this a lot with like the whole conversation of pain leading to purpose and things like that, right? Like this is kind of the first time that this idea really got stuck in my head from Jonathan Haidt about the idea that adversity in our life is not something that is just there. It's something that's a necessary catalyst potentially toward sending us down our journey toward happiness potentially, right? And it was one of those moments where I was like, because I was feeling this way myself at this point in time. And as he kept going and kept describing what the adversity hypothesis was, it got even more in depth where it was another big he started to talk about there's this brief moment of time. He was like, it doesn't always work. Like you can have a traumatic event, and they've done a lot of studies about this, and you can, years later, it can have no effect or it can have a negative effect, obviously, a hugely negative effect where you can turn into PTSD or it can turn into whatever, or it can turn into something that's truly a post-traumatic growth experience, right? And he was like, the biggest difference between the post-traumatic growth aspect after a traumatic event versus nothing or going backwards is if you immediately make changes right after, within the first like 2 to 3 months after the traumatic event happens, and you make tangible habit changes in your life to start to walk in a different direction. Studies have shown the new paradigms walking toward, the new purpose that you're going toward, that's when you really see the big post-traumatic growth from coming from a truly traumatic event to something that helps to catapult you toward maybe a life purpose. And as I was reading this portion of the book, like I'm literally 4 or 5 months after Amelia had passed away, a very traumatic event in our life. And it just made me smile and think about my daughter. Just the whole entire idea of this whole journey is imagining my life with her. And as we talked about with Reflections Past, with the Lion Tracker's Guide to Life, like I still don't know where we're going, but I know how we'll get there, right? And Amelia showed me what those first few steps were. And immediately, day one, maybe hour 5 after she passed away, like I still found that first track of, get out of bed and keep moving for your daughter, and that was what Amelia left me, like was the ability to fight and endure just like she did, right? And immediately those actions started to compound. It was a new life, like that was going. I didn't know where we were going, and I still don't know where we are, but I knew how I was gonna at least go forward in that life, and what I was, and Amelia and her memory and her spirit and what she taught me, and those first few tracks that I found that she had left me and that she continues to leave me, I was following. And now I'm reading this 4 or 5 months removed, from that initial hugely traumatic event in my life, and I feel differently. I feel like I'm, dare I say, happier, like I feel like I'm on a path of happiness, that I didn't ever know before. And it was because of those changes that immediately happened after Amelia passed away that she guided me down, and she still continues to guide me down. But it was just one of those moments that kind of made me smile, thinking she just knows so much more than I know. I don't understand it. I don't understand how she knows this stuff. I don't understand how I stumbled upon some of these things later on down the road that I'm like, oh, that makes sense. It makes you see where these things are going. But the adversity hypothesis was just something that really stuck with me about understanding, you can have a traumatic event but like it's really about the changes you immediately make following a traumatic event that either decides whether or not that leads you toward your purpose or away from your purpose, right? And if you don't do anything, then who the hell knows what that happens. I'd love to get your thoughts.
Well, I think we had to continue our discussions from yesterday regarding biology, because I think if you look at the statistics, right, anyone who has any setback, the majority of the people who had setback ended up worse than before. And there's only a smaller percentage of people who bounce back. And to me, I think I don't think it matters what you do or how you do it. The important element is not there. And what I'm saying is, if you have found your purpose, the ability for you to endure the setback is going to help you realize the path that you need to take and the things you need to do. And whenever you do that, it compounds and spiral upward. And when it spiral, it compounds really, really fast. And I think, to me, that's the key. I'm not Jonathan Haidt. I'm not, a psychologist. I'm not, trained in it. But at the same time, I don't have the knowledge curse. So, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but maybe I'm right, because, I don't study. That means I'm not really constrained inside of the paradigm.
Right.
But at the same time, I'm saying is, I'm looking at statistics, right? It doesn't matter if you can do certain things at a certain times, or immediately or afterward. And usually, by the observation, is whenever the conditions align with your core values, it happens pretty fast. If it doesn't happen and you wait for years afterward or whatever, that means that the whatever the activity, whatever the condition and environment you're in, wasn't jiving with your purpose. Therefore, nothing sparks. But because if the conditions were to jive with who you are, then the sparks will happen relatively fast. That's why the observation I see in this book say, hey, if you were to take on activities to bounce back, then it happens early, right? That is the byproduct. It's a coincidence, right? It's an observation. It's not the cause. It's not the cause of you like I say, you can take somebody and
the cause is the pain. The pain hurts the most right after.
No. Yeah. The bouncing back, to me,
bouncing forward is what they would call it.
The thing is, when you have a setback, right? That setback creates a different environment. Okay, and that environment, the environment is going to either give you a boost or it doesn't. And the boost is depending on whether that environment is aligning with your core values. If it doesn't align with your core values, it doesn't matter if you start early or start later, it won't have an effect. If it does align with your core values, that means he has setback, but that setback puts him into the water. The water is his natural environment. Therefore, he can thrive in that, and he can get back up and get better at it. But if he were to fall down into a pit of mud, it doesn't help him. He's going to succumb to the environment. That environment isn't aligned with his natural environment of being in the water. And so, to me, it's all about the setback. The setback has to become the condition for growth. If it doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't matter.
Well, I agree with that.
I think a lot of people have many setbacks throughout their lives, and there are certain setbacks that give them the ability to bounce forward, and there's many other setbacks that doesn't do nothing, or basically keep them,
backwards,
stay backward, stay behind. Right. And I think you can relate to that in many of the things that you have setback for, whatever, something small.
You failed a class in college or something like that, and it made you go an extra semester. Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. I think it's multiple things. Factor one is the magnitude of the pain of the trauma. Like how painful was it? Like, was it something that you can't ever forget, or was it something that was kind of like, that sucked, but like, a couple days later, I'll brush it off and I'll be okay.
The magnitude creates the impactful condition. And if the condition is right, the magnitude of the pain will actually thrust you forward in the same amount of magnitude. And so, to me, yes, I agree. The magnitude of your adversity determines how much forward you're going to be jumping if it aligns.
So here's the one thing that I would push back on. I agree with what you're saying in retrospect, but like, here's the thing. that I think we need to take into account. We're looking at it now. We're talking about this 3 years ago, and as you know, like I didn't live a value-driven life when this happened. Like I was still discovering my values. I was just acting. Like I was literally just putting one foot in front of the other every single day, propelled forward by my daughter's memory, and like her spirit and how she fought, right? Like so there was no intentionality behind a lot of the activities that I was doing other than I was intentionally trying to fight and endure like my daughter was. And I found my values through going through that journey.
Control over it. That's why I'm saying it either aligns with your core values or it doesn't. Your core values is your core value, whether you knew it or you didn't. It doesn't matter.
I agree.
Because to me, it's like I say, well, I'm an introvert, right? Regardless whether I knew I'm an introvert or not, I'm still an introvert. I have an affinity for certain conditions.
Yeah, you turn into an elephant. You fall back on your elephant,
Right, your elephant is who your genes make you who you are, right? And so the behaviors of me is not going to change whether I knew it or not, right? I say, hey, I love to be a public speaker. That's not my natural ability. Regardless how much I study, I can only be so-so at best, okay?
Yeah.
So for me, for example, if I were to go in college and I fail a class, if I fail like history class, I don't care. But if I fail something that I'm good at, like computer science or math, then I get mad, right? And then I bounce back quickly. Right? I say I want to get revenge on it because that's my core value, whether I knew it or not. Because right, that's who I am biologically. It made me want to put that on an importance level higher than the rest. To other people, their activities is going to be different. Like I say, beaver, they have a certain natural affinity for water. You put an eagle in a cage, he'll die because he needs to be free. He needs to fly. He needs to be like out. Even a donkey. I mean, the donkey is a perfect example. You don't have to take an eagle or a lion or anything. We're talking about running with Sherman. You put a donkey in a shed. I mean, he is at death's door. So that's what I'm saying is whether you knew your core values or not, your core value is your biology who make you who you are. If whatever that conditions make you align with that, then the bounce back is going to be great. But if it doesn't, right, it doesn't. Whatever the thing is for you, I think you found your core value and you discovered your core values, right? You just basically identify, hey, that's what I want. I didn't know what I want, but I wanted these things before. I just didn't know what it is. I didn't have a label. I didn't have a term for it. I didn't have a word for it. But now I do. I'm just identifying that. But that doesn't mean that you didn't have it before. You had it before.
Right. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, so there's this particular topic is actually one of my like I actually hate this topic, to be honest with you, because a lot of this is predicated on the fact that I lost my daughter. And I hear like one of the things I loved about the happiness hypothesis was, and the way that he dealt with this idea of the adversity hypothesis, it wasn't something that he was like saying this is good or bad. It's just a methodology that could potentially push you more towards your purpose and more toward a more fulfilling life, right? Like, and I don't mean that he does not, by any means, he is not saying this is what you should go seek out. This is what you should try to find. Like, this is good or bad. Like, it just is what it is. And he was going through it very clinically about what happens when stuff like this happens, or the behaviors of your life change when the whole entire paradigm of your life shifts. And then also he talks a lot about the good and the bad. A lot of the stuff in the adversity hypothesis that he refers to is about it's most impactful for kids that are like 17 to 25 years old, because they haven't really they haven't figured out what really matters to them in their life yet at that point in time. And when a seriously traumatic event happens at that age, they have so much more life. They can redefine their life is the point, right? Like there's a lot of wiggle room to redefine your life. When you get to be my age, when I was 35 years old, and when you get to be your age, when this happened, when you get to be your age, or when you get to be 50s or 60s, that redefining of your life is something that's a lot harder, because your life has become so much more entrenched into who you are and what you do and how you've built your life around that person. It's really hard to just shift on a dime, right? When you build up a life around, I have 4 children, I have a job, I have whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's just not as easy as it is when you're like 18 years old and something like this happens. So what I'm getting at with this point is I really appreciated the way that Jonathan Haidt approached the topic, because I get so fucking mad. And I've told you about this so many times. Whenever I hear these self-help gurus and people like that are like, post-traumatic growth, like you want to run at your problems and embrace them and blah, blah, blah. Like there's some sort of a,
right.
like,
I mean, it irks me when people say, you got to embrace your pain, embrace adversity. To me, that's stupid. I mean, I'm not going to sugarcoat that word.
It's offensive.
To me, I'm pissed when people say that, because, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to seek out the atomic bomb. That's just Chris,
It's people that don't understand and they don't know, and that's okay. I'm okay with, people having ignorance around that topic, but it drives me nuts when they try to spin it as this is something that you should have. And if you don't have that, then go find then you end up hiking fucking Mount Everest or something like that, like we've talked about in the past. And that's why people do it. You can't force an adversity hypothesis, is what I'm trying to say, or it will not, but it is what you do when it comes to your door. And it either redefines your paradigm and you decide in that new paradigm that you're going to be a completely different person, or go find the person that you're supposed to be and go live that life, or you're not. And that's fine. Both of them are fine. It's just that there's this small window of time after this happens where your mind has been wiped. Like the paradigm of your past existence, like True is no longer a father of 4 and, a husband that's been married. How long have you guys been married? 15 years, 20 years? Like what? 25 years, I don't know,
19 years.
19 years. Like you're no longer a husband of 19 years and a father of 4 and technology coder or programmer. Like you're literally you're back to a 10-year-old or something like that, where you're like, I don't know what I want. I don't know what my life's going to be. Like it could be anything. When that moment arrives, do you say, I'm going to go and try to rebuild? Because I talk about this in the book a lot. Do you go rush to rebuild your city, that just got blown up? Because a lot of people do. They try to just forget it really fast and go rush to rebuild their city, try to remember what their homes
get back to normal. Right.
Normal, right. To the paradigm that you knew, or you can just sit there in the rubble and die. That's an option, right?
But sadly, the statistics say that most people do. They sit there in the rubble and wither away.
I was literally just writing about this morning because I just finished Prince Harry's book Spare yesterday with my wife, and this poor dude. When he lost his mom, Princess Diana, obviously, I think you know their story, right? When Princess Diana died, Harry was 13 years old. Pretended it didn't happen for the most part.
Basically you put him into a different trajectory. That's why he's like the black sheep of the royal family right now. No, it started when his mom died.
It immediately.
He went, and like he becomes this completely.
He ran away. He ran away.
He ran away. He joined the Royal Army.
Whatever.
He goes. He just completely.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he ran away from it. Like that's another option. Is you could run away.
And now he's living alive outside of the palace and in a environment that is not his own.
Well, so ironically,
out of his element.
Ironically, though, he actually came back around, and I'll say that reflection for the future when we get to it. But like he did eventually update his reality and decided to embrace it. It took him 15 years, or something like that.
His setback is still his setback right now.
He hasn't
bounced back, right? He actually realized it, but he's still in setback because right now, I think he wishes he still was part of the royal family. Right now he's like the outcast of the family.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I guess you'd have to read the book, but what I can definitely tell you is that was a single catalyst event of an atomic bomb in his life, and it changed the entire trajectory of his life. It wasn't a post-traumatic growth event for him. It was a post-traumatic stress disorder event. You know what I mean? It was a PTSD event. That's when it goes the other way.
I think he is still paying for it.
Oh yeah, well that's why he hates the media. That's why he's running so far away from the media and tries to protect his wife so much from the media, because he thinks the media killed his mother and he's afraid it's going to take his family again from him. Running away.
But the point is, that's an example of an atomic bomb event to somebody what we all knew, and that he did not bounce back. I don't think he bounced back at all.
No, I think he's now processing it as he wrote his book and he's working.
He's still moving forward.
Yeah, for sure.
It's not like, okay, I was here and I bounced back. I was better even than before. No, he's still not better than before. He's better than his bottom, situation, but he's still not bounced. He didn't bounce, right? Setback still setback. Yeah, you can still move forward, but a setback still sets you back. There's some people who continue to move forward, but the setbacks still set them back. And there's very, very few people that can use it as a trampoline to kind of jump forward.
I don't think that I chose that. I think that Amelia chose that for me personally, and I think that I was just following her lead, and that's what I ended up discovering. It wasn't like I had some knowledge of this adversity hypothesis or whatever.
You didn't know your core values. You didn't know this is what you wanted.
I was just following my daughter.
When you were sitting on a rubble, and basically Amelia shows you and inspires you to look within yourself, and you were able to identify the core values that resonate
over time.
And that's what I'm saying is that core value you had, it was there. It was just masked by the other core value that you thought you wanted.
Yes, 100%. So I guess I'm just trying to be crystal clear about this. Like, this was never some design. The reason why I'm sharing this with everybody else now is like, I think it's important for people to know and understand, if you ever do find yourself in an atomic bomb event scenario, anchoring on your core values immediately afterwards and using that, not necessarily forgetting, like, it's not, I don't want to say using that as some sort of a benefit, but understanding that you can decide to, things can change in this window of time that is so pivotal, that if you take the steps and the actions that align to your life, you can redefine your life in those moments and truly go on a whole different trajectory if you wanted to. But I don't know why somebody would choose that or not.
What I'm saying is, this is why I get mad, I get angry when people say to go embrace adversity and go seek pain and others. To me, that's stupid, because what I'm saying is, can't control.
Right.
You can't control. You mean it's just to say that, hey, if I follow this formula, I'm able to bounce forward. No, that doesn't happen. No. It is outside your control whether you bounce forward or not, right? It is not up to you, right? The environment that happens to you, it's by a random chance event that happens to you. The only thing you can do is be who you are and move forward, right?
Yes.
And so the thing is, sometimes doing exactly what you're supposed to do doesn't catapult you forward, and that's okay. A beaver must dam, so be a beaver. So even in the tragedy, right, of whatever happens to you, as long as you're the beaver, you can move forward. And it may not be say, well, I'm expecting to bounce forward. No, you cannot expect that. It is not up to you whether you bounce forward or not. It is determined by you as about your core values and the conditions that was created by the atomic bomb. Whether that two things are aligned, the chance is low, the odds are low. But the thing that you can do is, whenever something happens to you, whether it does happen to you or not, you should only continue to live the way that you are made to live. But then seek the elements that is going to be most favorable for the beaver. If you're a lion, seek the elements that's most favorable for the lion. No one is able to control, say, hey, I'm going to seek adversity so I can bounce forward.
Right.
That is the silliest thing I've ever heard.
It's stupid.
It makes me mad when people say go embrace your pain. Why are you seeking negative emotions?
I mean, trust me. Like I could. Why are you yelling on that topic for forever? But I think you just said something too that I hadn't really caught on yet either. Until that's why I love talking about these things with you, because it deepens my own knowledge of what I'm trying to say. If an atomic bomb event happens to somebody that doesn't know who they are, in that time following it, if they follow who they truly want to be, and whatever steps that leads them down, then you will see that bounce forward. Not because you wanted it, but just because you're finding out who you want to be and you're living that life on purpose. Second step, if, like, for instance, in my life, if that were to happen to me again, like some other atomic bomb event, which, probably will, I already know who I want to be and how I want to live my life going forward. It won't redefine me, because I already know exactly what I would want to do day one following that event, in however capacity that I would do that, because I know the path that I want to walk for. So what I'm trying to say is the atomic bomb event can only redefine your life and make these changes going forward if you are living not the life that you wanted to live prior to that, right? Because I wouldn't rebuild my own city. I would just rebuild a city in a new way with the stuff that I already know what I want to go do, but it would be a different city, and I would understand that, and I would be okay with that. But I guess, do you understand what I'm trying to say? Like, this only works if you didn't know who you were, an atomic bomb event happens, and then you figure out in those short time frames afterwards.
Because to me, the atomic bomb event is not something that somebody can control.
Right.
And so it will happen to you by chance, random event. And so to me, right, you don't know if a random event, a atomic bomb will happen, or you don't know when, right? So the only thing you can do is live, find out who you're supposed to be. So don't try to become a lion if deep down you're a beaver. Accept that you're a beaver. To me, like you asked me, am I a lion? I say no, I'm a beaver, right? Because the thing is, in the universal sense, right? Is a lion better than a beaver? Yeah, I think so. Even as a beaver, I think a lion's better than a beaver. But I don't want to be a lion.
Right.
I want to be me, and I know that now. And so when you know who you are, who you're supposed to be, you be that. Even if the atomic bomb hits you, you still would be able to move forward. Yes, it sets you back, but you still continue to move forward, right? So there are, to me, when random chance happens to you and atomic bomb hits you, you have three outcomes. The first one, right, which by majority of the people get into, is you sit in the rubble and you wither away. The second outcome, it is you bounce back because the condition is right for you to bounce forward. And the third condition is that you continue to move forward. Let's say a rock pushes me as a beaver and knocks me 100 feet from where I'm supposed to be, 100 feet back. So for me, I'm continuing to move forward toward the lake. Yes, 100 feet back, then I move to the point where I'm 9 feet and then 98 feet. Yes, I'm still not at the lake, but I'm still continue to move forward in that scenario. So there's only three outcomes. So which outcome do you want? You look at the probabilities of the first outcome, which is like people just sit there, wither, and die. That's the majority of the outcome. The second outcome, which is very, very rare, which is an atomic bomb that aligns exactly with the condition for you to catapult forward. That's like, I would say like less than 1%. And then the rest of them is like in the middle. Can you continue to survive and move forward even though there's a setback?
I think you're forgetting a really important one. You could just run away. Like you could just run in another direction.
That to me is group into the sit in the rubble and wither away.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the same thing, because I think you could run away. You could still keep moving forward, because sitting in the rubble means you're not moving. Like I think you could keep moving, but just in any direction that's away from there. Like where you don't know where you're going, you don't care. You're just running away from there. Like, you know.
The thing is, when you do that, you wither away because what's the point? Like let's take a realistic example. What does running away for us mean? We go and indulge in alcohol. We drink ourselves to death. We have psoriasis. We get alcohol poisoning. We go into drugs. We try to dampen the pain. These to me is what you call running away. You're running away and doing something productive. You're running away, but you are continually shortening your life and doing things that, basically to me it's wither away. Where you drown yourself in alcohol, in drugs, in Fight Club, or in angry. You live an angry life, right? How long can you live?
You're just trying to mask your pain until you do.
So somebody somebody is depressed, right? You sit there and you're depressed, and about a couple of years you die. You get sick, you die, or you drown your pain, which is called running away. You drown your pain in other things. And to us, like mainly for men, it's alcohol, because it numbs your creative thinking. And you get into drugs or whatever, you're trying to distract your mind from the pain because your pain is so searing that you want to distract. To me, that's running away. I don't see any scenario where somebody's running away. Say, "Oh, I'm going to run away and I'm going to start a company and I'm going to." No one does that.
Well, I don't know. My brother-in-law kind of did that with his traumatic event that happened in his life.
I'm grouping these people into the bucket of the wither away, the ability to have the conditional line and jump forward, or you moving forward and doing the things that you're supposed to do, which is who you are. And that to me is, if your brother is doing the business thing and he's making productivities and stuff like that, he is in that category.
Well, he just buried himself in his work is what I was going to say.
Is that something that he likes or hates?
I can't answer that question for him. I know that he gets very stressed out about it, and he's very, I don't know. I can't speak for him.
To me, regardless of what, to say it frankly, even if he does put his mind into work, he's still in that category of wither away, because he's stressed out. You think about the mental health, right? He probably gonna live longer, but he is shortening his life. Let's say he has like 100 years, right? He may not live 100 years because he is mentally stressed out.
Oh, I guess what I was getting at is like it doesn't have to be just like drugs or alcohol or whatever. You could bury yourself into
I'm
something.
just saying
You're just running away.
these are the top three things,
Right,
right?
yeah,
That
yeah, yeah.
you
Work
that
is
people
definitely one
turn
of
to.
them.
Work
Yeah.
is actually put up way up there too.
Yeah, I mean, but the point of what we're getting at, at a high level is this is going to send people all
Be
different directions.
resilient.
But
The point is to be resilient, and the only way to be resilient, to be the best of who you are, is to be in the element that is naturally fitted for you. Because when you have that, you are the strongest you can be. That strength, right, could save you, or maybe it's not enough. I mean, to me, I'm not saying, hey, if you becoming the beaver or whatever, that you can withstand the meteor or anything like that. I'm not telling you that. I'm saying, hey, you are the strongest that you can be, and whether that is good enough for you is you try your best, right?
Yeah.
That is your best. Because if you didn't, then maybe there's something that wouldn't kill the beaver, but because you didn't try it, it would kill you.
Yeah, no, I mean, I totally agree.
So to me,
it's an interesting.
People can't say, hey, you do this, you embrace pain, you focus on your deepest adversity, you're gonna grow, whatever. To me, that's stupid. You should not be looking for adversity. You shouldn't be looking for pain. It will come because it's by random chance it hits you.
It'll find you.
In your lifetime, one person will have many. Guaranteed, it's going to be some adversity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because it's basically probability of there's so many ways that adversity can come. And so that means that because it's so many probability, eventually one or two or more will hit you. And so how do you deal with it is be the best you can be. Just like, let's say you're sick, right? If your immune system, if your health is the most healthy, right? You can overcome it. But if your health is not good, and when you have the flu comes, well, it's gonna hit you and you're gonna get sick, and sometimes you may die from it. Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm at my best health, I have the best probability. That's all the world's gonna give you. There is no like, hey, if you do A, B, C, and D, you will get this. The world doesn't work that way.
Agreed. It's an interesting topic. It's an interesting concept, and I definitely think it can have a bearing on the happiness equation in your life if you are eventually some serious adversity will come to you. So however you deal with that in that moment, like I think it's important to know. And I'm glad that we talked about this, and I'm glad I learned it in this book. But I think it's a good time to wrap because I have to go get my crochet on. That's my monthly challenge.
What are you crocheting though?
I'm just trying to crochet a square right now or something.
Okay.
And then I'll progress from there. It is hard, man. It is fucking hard. So I'm gonna go get my crochet on and keep my monthly challenge thing going.
Good luck with the crocheting.
Thank you. It is really hard. I'll keep you posted though. I'm excited.
All right.
How it goes. All right. Any final thoughts for the night?
It is the same concept. You have to be in the environment that is naturally aligned with you. Like your beaver in the water, right? You have to be in the environment that you're made for.
Not just in the environment, but doing the actions that you're made for. I mean, because you could be in the right environment, but you need to be doing the right actions that also align to. Right. Exactly. Yeah. No, very, very fun as always. Thanks for your thoughts, and we will see you all tomorrow night.
Sounds good. Good night.